Let's try this again. Greetings and welcome to the newest episode of the Rice Crypto Show. Give me a 5x5 if one, you can hear me. And you can hear me loud and clear. Try to go live at 2 o'clock p.m. today. Had some sound problems. And it sounds like we are good. Live streaming on YouTube, Rumble, and X. If you're not following me on X, you can follow me at RiceTVX. Links are down below in the video description for that and everything we're going to be talking about on today's show. Smash that like button, repost, share. Here we go. And as always, a shout out to the sponsors of Rice Crypto who make this thing possible for me to do this full time, because YouTube definitely does not pay the bills. I do appreciate Monarch and Presearch. Monarch is a cryptocurrency wallet that you possess, own, and control your private key. That's non-custodial. And Presearch is a decentralized search engine with AI that rewards. You can find information in every video description for Monarch and Presearch. All right, I have absolutely zero clue what happened when I went live at 2 o'clock and what was going on with my sound, but I checked and it seems as if everything is good. We are good to go. Everything sounds like normal. It is using the correct microphone. There is no static. There is no echo. No technical difficulties. Before we begin, a real quick channel promo, and then we're going to get into this Bitcoin halving 2024. Today is Monday, April 15th. This thing is scheduled to happen in 4 to potentially 5 days. We're really about 4 and some change. We're looking at either 419 or 420. I was really hoping for 420, and it is still possible. We'll talk about that. I'll explain the halving and talk about the coming supply shock. Smash that like button, share, repost. Don't forget to visit ricetvx.com, where you can watch both of my YouTube channels, Rice Crypto and Rice Against the Grain, directly. Find all of my social media links, sign up for my mailing list, and become a member of Rice Uncensored, where you can join me on the private side for less than $0.25 a day. You will get early access to both Rice Crypto and Rice Against the Grain, ad-free, unedited videos, exclusive content, members-only forum with direct access to me, live streams, and more to come, only at ricetvx.com. Before also we get into today's conversation, today's live stream about this Bitcoin halving and coming supply shock, I just got done last night reading a book that I thoroughly enjoyed. I talked about this book when I went live last week with my bro, Ken Bozak. And that book is a book that is authored by Roger Ver with Steve Patterson. It's called Hijacking Bitcoin, The Hidden History of BTC. Actually, what I'm going to do real quick is, let me see if I have this ready. Yeah, I do. I'm going to copy and paste this, put this in the other browser, pull this up full screen so you guys could check out the website. I've got to get in touch with Roger this evening. He is in Singapore. Last I talked with him, he said to give him a day's notice after I am done reading the book, and he will come back on for a follow-up interview, for a new interview, coming back on for what will be his 4th appearance. Roger Ver coming back. Verveer, Roger. So here it is, hijackingbitcoin.com. And that is the correct website, hijackingbitcoin.com. You can actually purchase it with crypto, or you can buy it directly from Amazon. It's got some information about the book, a synopsis, Roger's bio, Steve Patterson's bio, and some more information there. So I will say this is an absolutely incredible book. I thoroughly enjoyed reading it. When I had Roger on my channel, we talked about the Bitcoin Civil War, the block size debate, which ultimately resulted in a hard fork where Bitcoin Cash was created. Kind of goes into all the specifics, goes into what happened from his perspective beforehand, during hand, and what we can do moving forward. Great book. Cannot recommend it enough. hijackingbitcoin.com. So be sure to check that out. I do appreciate everybody taking the time to tune in for today's live stream. Part 2, redo. Shout out to Johnny Midas. Jim Montgomery, what's going on? I am Paulie P. What is going on, my friend? Thank you for tuning in. Butterfly 31. Good afternoon from Pennsylvania. Barbara LLIC. I hope I got that right. Thank you for tuning in. All right. Andy Lee, it's good seeing you. Thank you so much. Jim Montgomery was saying, Chris, you got a shout out from KL and Sean's SGT report. Yes, me and KL are working together in regards to a project called the Freedom USB package, and you can check that out on my other channel, Rice Against the Grain. Links are down below in the video description. You can find links over at ricetvx.com, where you can actually watch both of my YouTube channels directly. Paulie P lurking in the shadows as always. It's definitely a blessing to catch me live. I appreciate it. I'm glad. Did YouTube notify you, or did you just happen to stumble upon this? I don't think it's available on audio yet because it just came out on April 5th, Paulie. I got my copy last Monday, and I just finished it. It's like 251 pages. I could have read it sooner, but I spread out the chapters, and I got it done last night. So really looking forward to talking to Roger about that. So let's get into today's video. I'm going to show 3 websites that are talking about a Bitcoin halving countdown. There is no consensus at this time. Okay. I'm still hoping for a 420 Bitcoin halving. I'm going to explain what the halving is. Andy says you got the notification at the refresh. Awesome. Sacred Terra, appreciate you tuning in. Gulag, it's good seeing you. I disagree, but it's all good because we can agree to disagree. All right. So let me go ahead and pull this up full screen. This is the first Bitcoin. This is the one that I prefer. Okay. And again, these are linked down below. This is a countdown for the halving. You see, it's going to be taking place in this is in live time, as you can see, because the time keeps changing. The Bitcoin block reward halving countdown at bitcoinblockhalf.com. They're estimating that it will happen April 20th, 2024 at 2:20 or 2:36:39 UTC. Now, we are 4 hours behind UTC on the East Coast. So if you're on the East Coast in the United States, we're 4 hours behind. Otherwise, you can go to worldtimebuddy.com and figure out what time zone you are in and how that converts over to the UTC. Okay. So we're looking at the Bitcoin block half, April 20th at 2:36:39 UTC, which would be like 4:30 a.m. April 20th. All right. So now we can go to NiceHash, their Bitcoin halving countdown. And they have it set for April 19th at 10:06 UTC, which would be about 6 p.m. Eastern time, April 19th, this coming Friday. And we can also go to, and all these things are pre-programmed in, which we'll get into when I explain the halving. This is crypto.com's, and let me go ahead and just refresh it to make sure I got the most accurate, up-to-date information. And they actually are doing this in the time zone that you're in, depending on where you're viewing this at. So again, 4 days, 5 hours. We're looking at April 19th at 8:01 p.m. Now, as I'm doing this live stream, these times could change because I was thinking it said something else just a moment ago, and it did change. So I'd have to go back in the live stream and see that. But it's going to change because it's based on each block, which is supposed to take an estimated 10 minutes. Now, the reason I like the Bitcoin block half is because it gives a really good explanation as to what exactly the Bitcoin halving is. And it's really explained very simply. So let me go ahead and read a little bit of what it says here. What is a Bitcoin halving event? Well, as part of Bitcoin's coin issuance, the way that each Bitcoin is created, because not all 21 million Bitcoin have been created at this time. Miners are rewarded a certain amount of Bitcoins whenever a block is produced, which is approximately every 10 minutes. When Bitcoin first started, 50 Bitcoins per block were given as the reward to miners. After every 210,000 blocks are mined, approximately every 4 years, the block reward halves and will keep on halving until the block reward per block becomes 0, which is approximated to be the year 2140. As of now, the block reward is 6.25 coins per block today. As of the halving, that will decrease in half to 3.125 coins per block post halving. Now, I got some crazy construction going on outside of my house. Some machine just picked up a giant trash can and dropped it. I don't know if you heard it. I do apologize if you did. But I want to go ahead and get some misconceptions out of the way real quick. So some people that are new to Bitcoin, new to the cryptocurrency space, and have never been through a halving and aren't familiar with the halving. The first thing I'm going to say is that nothing, absolutely nothing, zero, happens to the Bitcoin that are in circulation. Nothing happens to your Bitcoin. Nothing happens to my Bitcoin. That doesn't mean that as of once the halving takes place, that you're going to be losing half of your coins or doubling your coins. Neither of those things are true, and neither of those are going to happen. It doesn't affect the supply of coins that are currently in existence. All it does is affect the amount of coins that are being issued with every block reward. So every 10 minutes is when new Bitcoin are issued. The miners, they fight to solve an algorithm. And what that algorithm, when they solve the algorithm, they end up getting a block reward, which at this time is 6.25 Bitcoin, plus the transaction fees. Now that will reduce after the halving. And the reason that that's been programmed in is because of simple supply and demand dynamics, which we'll get into because that's coming into play with what's happening with Bitcoin. We'll come to the comments here in just a little bit. Again, we are live streaming on YouTube, Rumble, and X. One thing I did not do is check to make sure everything was running smoothly on those platforms. So let me check X real quick. And I'm not sure if what's going on here. Is this live? Yeah, we are live on X. Okay. And let me check over here on the Rumbles. It says we're live. So depending on where you guys are watching this at, please take an opportunity to smash that like button. If you guys are watching on the X, I would really greatly appreciate it. And I can't get this thing to pull up correctly. If you would just take an opportunity to repost it, if you're watching on the X side. Okay, so let's come back. So why is this done? So when the individual or the group known as Satoshi Nakamoto, the Bitcoin was designed with a deflationary, and let me make sure I'm on the right screen here. Okay, I am. I just keep hearing scraping of a giant trash can on the asphalt with this machine outside. So I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted here. Getting back into this, why was this done? Satoshi Nakamoto, when Bitcoin was designed, it's designed as a deflationary currency. And the reason this is because the currency that we currently have with the US dollar is inflationary. So this is the opposite. Like gold, the premise is that over time, the issuance of Bitcoin will decrease and thus become scarcer over time. Scarcity. As Bitcoins become scarcer and a demand for them increases over time, Bitcoin can be used as a hedge against the inflation, as the price, guided by price equilibrium, is bound to increase. On the flip side, fiat currencies like the US dollar inflate over time as its monetary supply increases, which we're about to see happen again, leading to a decrease in purchasing power. Inflation, hidden tax. This is known as monetary debasement by inflation. A simple example would be to compare housing prices decades ago to now, and you'll notice that they've increased over time. Talk about a predictable monetary supply. Since we know Bitcoin's issuance over time, people can rely on the program-controlled supply. This is helpful to understand what the current inflation rate of Bitcoin is, what the future inflation rate will be at a specific point in time, and how many Bitcoins are in circulation, and how many remain left to be mined. This talks about who controls the issuance of Bitcoin. The network itself controls the issuance of Bitcoin, no individual. This was programmed into Bitcoin when it was created. It was derived by consensus through the Bitcoin participants, and ever since Bitcoin was first designed, the following consensus rules exist to this day. 21 million Bitcoin to ever be produced. A target of 10-minute block intervals. That's the block time that's supposed to take approximately 10 minutes average time. The halving event occurred every 210 blocks, approximately every 4 years. Block rewards, which start at 50 and halves continually every halving event until it reaches 0, approximated by the year 2140. They give the past halving dates, the past halving price. Now, before I get into some of the things I was going to talk about on today's live stream, let me get rid of this screen share, because I did have the pleasure of interviewing Andreas Antonopoulos a couple years ago. I've been trying to get him back on the show, but obviously that has not happened. But the beauty is, I did ask him back in 2020 to explain what the halving is. So I'm going to play part of this video. Let me know if you can hear this okay. And then I'll play Andreas Antonopoulos talking about the halving from his perspective. And then we're going to get into the supply shock that I believe and others believe is incoming. Again, let me know if you can hear. Could you hear that? Could you hear the end of that little commercial there? If you could, then we're going to go ahead and play this thing in fullness. If you have not taken an opportunity, please smash that like button. I'd be greatly appreciated. Let me go ahead and get this thing rolling. Make sure you're subscribed on the YouTube side. Make sure you're subscribed on the Rumble side and follow me on the X. All right. I got some confirmations that we can hear. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to the video. I'm going to play it out for a little bit. Let's get this thing full screen. Here we go. For people who are unfamiliar with who are kind of new to crypto and stuff, I mean, I'm familiar, but since you're an educator, would you mind explaining what the halving is?
Yes, absolutely. So Bitcoin operates by a number of algorithms or recipes, if you like, that control its future evolution that was set in stone when Bitcoin was launched. One of those algorithms is based on the heartbeat of Bitcoin, which is the issuance of a new block every 10 minutes. And within that new block, as a reward for securing the network, miners receive a reward. And that reward is partly in the form of transaction fees and partly in the form of a block subsidy, as it's called, where new Bitcoin are issued. And these new Bitcoin are basically created from nothing. But in order to earn them, you have to expend energy and provide security to the network. So they're not given for nothing. In fact, they're given for proof of work, which is the security mechanism in Bitcoin. So miners collect these rewards. Every 10 minutes, there's a block. And these rewards are designed to diminish every 210,000 blocks. So after the first 210,000 blocks in 2012, about 4 years into Bitcoin's life, and if you do the math, block on average every 10 minutes, 210,000 blocks is 4 years. Right. But not exactly 4 years, because blocks are not exactly every 10 minutes. They're on average 10 minutes. Sometimes they're faster, sometimes they're slower. That dynamically adjusts to keep that heartbeat on an average of 10 minutes on the long term. So approximately every 4 years. So in 2012, the reward went from 50 new Bitcoin per block to 25 new Bitcoin per block. In 2016, it went from 25 to 12.5 Bitcoin per block. And in May, at some point in May, at block, so the time we're not entirely sure about, because that changes as per block, but we are very sure about the block number.
Right.
Block 660,001 will have 6.25 Bitcoin block subsidy in it. That's baked into the rules. As the block, that new block is issued, everybody calculates the same equation, and that equation is divide the total number.
So the number, the block number this year, I believe, is 840. Yes, 840,000. Yeah, 840,000. It'll be on that block, and then after that, the block reward will be reduced to the 3.125 number. Let me continue on.
Of blocks that have been issued so far by
you haven't smashed that like button, please do so. It greatly helps.
And then take
sure
that
you are subscribed
and
as well?
divide the reward in half that many times, and you arrive at an answer, and that answer is 6.25 Bitcoin. Everybody makes the same calculation every block and decides what the subsidy for the next block should be. So at the same time, when block 660,001 comes out, everybody will have made that calculation, and they will reject a block that has more than 6.25 Bitcoin in its block subsidy. That mechanism of only accepting a block.
Now, with that being said, as a block 840,001, the reward will be reduced to 3.125, which at that point, all the miners will have consensus on that, which means that every single block. Now, Blind Dave, I know you say you miss AA. I do as well, man. I'm trying to get Andreas back on, but I think he's very active on his Patreon side. I'm not sure why he's taken things a lot more privately, but I believe he is a lot more active on the Patreon side. So that is the real interesting thing about the way Bitcoin was created, is these things were programmed in. Now, unless you have corrupt Bitcoin developers who decide they're going to change the code, which isn't exactly the easiest thing, this was the way that it was programmed in, and this is the way it will always be. And I will continue on with a little bit more of this Andreas clip. And again, you can watch the full interview in my Crypto OGs playlist, and also in the Rice Rewind playlist. You can watch both of my interviews with Andreas Antonopoulos.
That has the correct subsidy, and rejecting a block that doesn't is what forces miners to issue the block with the correct amount. Otherwise, they waste the energy by producing an invalid block. And that ensures that the issuance of Bitcoin is cut in half, hence the word halvening. If you follow that mathematical progression, 6.25 now in 2020, 3 1/8 in 2024, 1.7 something in 2028, and so on and so forth. It keeps diminishing in this geometric fashion until eventually, by the year 2140, or actually the year 2136, it goes down to 1 Satoshi, and then in 2141 or whatever, it goes down to 0. So that is what keeps the total issuance at less than 21 million Bitcoin. When people say there will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin, actually it's going to be 20,999,999 Bitcoin, 997 and some change. And so it never reaches 21 million. It's just short of that when you add up all of these little blocks.
That's something that a lot of people didn't know.
That is what keeps the total issuance at less than 21 million Bitcoin. When people say there will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin, actually it's going to be 20,999,999 Bitcoin, 997 and some change. And so it never reaches 21 million. It's just short of that when you add up all of these little blocks.
I did not know that, man. I learned something new, and I really appreciate how you explained that. I mean, since you are an educator, I thought it made sense. And, because some people, they're really confused by it, and that's why I wanted to ask you if you could explain it. Now, do you mind?
So, again, with this being said, the halving doesn't affect the Bitcoin that are in current circulation at all. As far as your Bitcoin, my Bitcoin, nothing happens. You're not going to lose half of the Bitcoin in your wallet, and you're not going to double the amount of Bitcoin in your wallet. Again, all that's going to happen is this is the issuance of Bitcoin. Every 10 minutes, right now, we have 6.25 Bitcoin created every 10 minutes. I believe that's 900 a day. After the halving at block 840,001, the supply will be 3.125. And the daily Bitcoin created will be 450. Now, this will explain, and again, the link is in live chat for that video. You can also watch the full interviews in the playlist section under Crypto OGs and Rice Rewind playlist with both Andreas Antonopoulos interviews. And let me go ahead and get the other screen share going back up on screen. And now let's talk about, let me pull up something else real quick. I wanted to make sure. Okay, I want to make sure I have this correct number. And then we'll get into all right. I just want to make sure I had a good copy of this to pull up. Okay. So, and this isn't exactly like a brand new article. It looks like it was updated on the 14th of March, but I'm still going to go ahead and screen share it anyway. So let me go ahead and get the screen share going. Again, if you haven't taken an opportunity to smash that like button, it'd be greatly appreciated if you would take an opportunity to do so. It's supposed to help with the algorithm. If you're watching over on the X side, please repost this. That'd be greatly appreciated. Again, smash that like button and be sure to share over on the YouTube and the Rumble side. Now, continuing on, who owns the most Bitcoin? Satoshi Nakamoto owns the most Bitcoin with an estimated 1.1 million Bitcoin. Okay, so 1.1 million out of 21. And it says here, Satoshi not only invented, but also kickstarted Bitcoin by being the first miner to create blocks of transaction. It's estimated that Satoshi mined more than 22,000 blocks starting from January 3rd, 2009, and received more than 1 million Bitcoin in cumulative block rewards for the work. Okay, so we're talking about 1.1 million. Now, the next thing I want to screen share is this. And this is like getting into the whole idea of supply shock, supply and demand, simple economics. Okay. When you have a limited supply of something that is scarce and you have demand, then usually what results is an upward action of price because people want something that is scarce and is running out. The actual Bitcoin, as far as availability to people, the amount is starting to run out. Now, as of, let's see when this article was written. And this comes from the block, March 8th, so a little over a month ago. And this number, I'm pretty sure, is still consistent, if not more. 4% of the entire Bitcoin supply is now backing U.S. spot ETFs. That means BlackRock and all these other traditional financial institutions, the 9 newborn ETFs are on a pace to hold more Bitcoin than Grayscale, okay? Holds roughly 4% of the entire 21 million supply. Now, what is 1.1% or 1.1 million of 21 million? What is the percentage of that? Like 1%? I'm not sure. This is not my specialty area. If somebody in the live chat can tell me, what percentage is 1.1 million of 21 million? Because you can add that to the 4%. Now, the thing about Satoshi is we don't know if Satoshi is alive. We don't know if Satoshi currently has access to the keys, any of these kind of things. David Gelfert saying 5. If it's 5%, then that's 9% out of supply already with the fact of 5%. Okay, I'm getting 5% from everybody as a consensus. So 5% of the supply, which means that these TradFi institutions holding 4% are probably going to pass up Satoshi. That's 9%. There's already X amount of Bitcoin or lost. Let me see. Let me check that out. Doing some live research. These are some things that I didn't think about. And I wonder how I wonder how true this is. I have to do a little bit more digging on this one. But newsbtc.com, and this was, it looked like an article from July of 2023, is saying 29% of Bitcoin circulating supply is now presumed lost forever. Let's just call it 25%. Because 25% of 21 million would be like little over 5 million, I believe. And that sounds about right for the coins that are lost. So if we say 5 million coins are lost and can't have access to, out of 21, that brings us down to 16. Then I'm sure the number of percentage of 1.1 million Bitcoin to 16 or 4% of, I'm pretty sure those numbers would increase. If you guys have any other information regarding the total Bitcoin supply that's out right now that's presumably lost because people lost access to their private keys, they died, whatever the situation might be. And I'm definitely getting consensus on 5%, being the 1.1 million is 5% of 21 million. To be correct, from David Brumbulow's side, it's 5.238095524%. Thank you, sir. And Jim Montgomery says you are correct. Unfortunately, we will never know what was lost. You are correct. You are correct. But let's just say it is 5 million. Okay, let's just say it is 5 million. That brings the supply down to 16 million. Okay, and you have 1.1 million of Satoshi, and I would have to say 4% is going to be close to another million. So that's 14 million available. And now let's see here. Now, and all Bitcoin has not been issued either. So it's not exactly that number available. Now, the next thing that we got to talk about is that Monday, April 15th, today, Hong Kong regulators approved launch of spot Bitcoin and Ether ETFs. Both. Hong Kong regulators on Monday approved the launch of Bitcoin, spot Bitcoin and Ether ETFs. China AMC, Harvest Global, and Bocera International are among those who have been given a green light to issue ETFs. Crypto trading is effectively banned in mainland China after a massive crackdown on the sector in 2021. However, Hong Kong has slowly been trying to make itself a regulated crypto hub. This is big, and this is going to add more competition to the currently existing TradFi institutions with Bitcoin. So this is just like a perfect storm for a supply shock to take place. And I believe a lot of these institutions and stuff already realize this, and they're trying to front run it before it actually becomes more headline news that we're running out of the amount of Bitcoin that's available to the everyday individual. We're running out of the amount of Bitcoin that's available to these TradFi institutions for these spot Bitcoin ETFs. Supply and demand. Lost in a boating accident. The story of my life, Paulie P. You know it all too well. All too well. Let's see. The next thing I wanted to share comes from CCN. And this was from 5 days ago. And that will put us at April 10th. The Bitcoin supply shock incoming, ? Exchanges hold record low levels as holders expectant. Bitcoin exchange reserves at record low. Bitcoin exchanges reserved hit a new low this April, dropping below 2 million Bitcoin, which is less than 10% of its total circulating supply. This significant decrease in exchange reserves to 1.94 million Bitcoin, accounting for approximately 9.8% of the total 19.67 million circulating Bitcoin, suggests a looming supply shock and increasing demand. Well, if you understand simple supply and demand economics, yes, all signs point to yes. As I continue on, this trend towards holding indicates a growing preference for viewing Bitcoin as a long-term investment. A supply shock, which occurs when the available supply of Bitcoin on exchanges drops sharply while demand increases, often result in price spikes due to a higher volume of buy orders relative to sell orders. Significant withdrawals from exchanges, which reduce the available supply for trading, are a primary driver of such shocks, potentially leading to a rapid increase in Bitcoin's price. The Bitcoin halving event set to amplify the supply shock. And that's just an understatement. So Base Studio on X says Bitcoin halving is an event that cuts Bitcoin mining rewards in half every 210,000 blocks, or roughly every 4 years, as a way to control inflation. Halving is considered an important moment that can affect mining profits and market dynamic countdown to the Bitcoin halving. So we got a lot going on. And I definitely believe that this Bitcoin halving is going to really wake up the TradFi institutions with the spot ETF. It's going to really wake up a lot of people, and then it's going to start hitting the news. The news is going to start talking about the Bitcoin supply dwindling, and the race of Bitcoin is just going to go parabolic. So I always encourage you, if you have not already, you got to get a full Bitcoin. Andy Lee, I appreciate. Enjoy your appointment. I will talk to you soon. Thanks for tuning in. I greatly appreciate you. Good seeing you in the house too as well, Mr. Pothead. So I have a website pulled up, or at least I thought I did. If I can go back to the other screen. And this website I've shared numerous times, but it's called dcabtc.com. I'm going to go ahead and copy this. I'm going to put this in a live chat so you guys have it. And this is a really good resource. Bear with me one moment. Again, if you guys haven't taken an opportunity to give this video a thumbs up, I ask, what are you waiting for? I greatly appreciate the support. It's definitely free to thumbs up videos, like, share, comment, all that good stuff. So the reason I like to share this website is because we're not too far away from all-time highs. So unless you just started buying Bitcoin in the past month, you may potentially be down just a tiny, tiny bit. Not much, okay? We're going to go ahead and say 2 years ago, you invested $15 every 2 weeks, starting 2 years ago. We're not comparing it to any other asset. Okay, this is the information right here. You decide you're going to buy $15 a week of Bitcoin every 2 weeks for 2 years, starting 2 years ago, regardless of what the price of Bitcoin is, every 2 weeks. And what that does is it reduces the volatility that you experience, the up and down action of the coin. Now, if you would have done this very strategy 2 years ago, starting April 15th, 2022, you would have invested $795. Your $795 today would be worth $1,931. That is a 142, almost 143% increase. Let's do this from a year ago. All right, let's do it from 6 months ago. I didn't know this was available. So if you would have started buying 6 months ago, $15 every 2 weeks, you would have invested $210, which today would be worth $309, which is an increase of 47.14%. The beautiful thing is if you do this thing further back, let's say you decided to invest $1 every 2 weeks, starting 9 years ago. 9 years ago, you say, I'm just going to invest $1 every 2 weeks into this Bitcoin. You would have invested $235. That would be worth $9,870, which is a 4,100% increased change. This website is called dcabtc.com. Again, if you were to actually buy Bitcoin in this method, you reduce the volatility and you can see you're ahead. You're increasing your US dollar value. And the reason is because of inflation. It's because of the things that are happening with these central banks and what they're doing to this fiat currency, which is dying. It's not like gold going up to like all-time highs, like $2,300, like 24. I'm not sure the exact price of what gold hit, but I just know it recently hit all-time highs. It's an indication of a failing fiat currency. Yeah, Jim, it's a great website. It's a great website, great resource. It's the best thing I can share with people. And Daddy-Os is the best. Steady wins the race. Barbara, I'll do some videos talking about some other coins, but I definitely encourage everybody to get to one full Bitcoin if they potentially can. The numbers that are being quoted as predictions based off of if nations were to just put 1 to 5%, if these customers of BlackRock actually do what BlackRock is recommending and are putting potentially 25% of their portfolio in these Bitcoin ETFs, spot ETFs. And the other thing about the Hong Kong spot ETFs is they can be done in kind, which means that you can actually cash out with Bitcoin. Cash in, cash out with Bitcoin, as opposed to the United States spot ETFs, which are cash kind. So yeah, this is a great website, a great resource to be able to show people the value of how much things can change in your life if you decide to just make a couple little adjustments. I mean, let's do it like this: $1 a week for 2 years. I mean, you would have had 145% increase on your US dollar investment. You would have invested $105. That today would be worth $257, which is over 145% increase by investing $1 every week for 2 years. If you did it monthly, you would have not tripled, close to a little less than triple your money, but you would have invested $24 if you did $1 a month for 2 years. That would be worth $59. That's an increase of 146%. So I encourage you, if you can, get to a full Bitcoin. 100%. And I will talk about some other coins, but the Bitcoin halving is getting ready to take place. And that's the reason why I'm talking about Bitcoin specifically. This is a very pivotal event that's going to be taking place in the next 4 days and some odd hours. So we're looking at Friday evening or early Saturday morning. And let's see here. Bitcoin block half is saying April 20th at 3:04 UTC. And I believe that's AM, which would make that 11:04 Eastern time in the United States. Going over to nicehash.com's Bitcoin halving countdown. April 20th at 1:24 UTC. Because, yeah, this must be AM, because if it was PM, it would be 1300. So this is AM, April 20th, 1 o'clock in the morning. So if it does happen, so now we are seeing, and because I think earlier when I was showing the nice hash, I think it was showing April 19th. So we got April 20th here, April 20th here. And let me just to make sure. Now we're still looking at April 19th at 7:37 p.m. Eastern time. If you put 4 hours onto that, though, that puts it at 11:37, which isn't too far off from this 124. Yeah, it's very, very possible we could have a 420 halving. As you see on NiceHash, it just switched back to April 19th at 24:27 UTC, which would be 11:30-ish p.m. So the reason this keeps changing is because not every block is consistent with being 10 minutes. Some are faster, some are longer. This gives you the event block height. This is the block that is going to happen is block 840000. This is the block that we're currently on. There's the current price and market cap. This is the difficult adjusted rating for the algorithm that deals with the Bitcoin miners and the block time. So we're looking at this is going to keep changing. This is really going to keep changing. So this is saying 3 o'clock in the morning on April 20th. This is saying 7:37 April 9th or April 19th, which again would be like 11:37 p.m. UTC. So I'm going to be doing a live stream on Friday. I'm going to be doing a halving party. Well, I'm not sure if it's going to be a happy hour, what's going to be going on, who's going to be joining me yet. But Friday, I'm going to be definitely doing this. So we're looking at Friday evening, or we're looking at as soon as 420 hits on the on our timepiece, which would be 12 o'clock a.m. So it'd be really cool. Blind Dave, I agree. It would be epic if it was on 420, especially if at the time of halving, like right at that block, the price of Bitcoin is $69,000 even, or 69,420. If it was 69,000 even or 69,420 at block 840,000 or 01, that would be really cool. That'd be really cool. So if we clog up the Bitcoin network, everybody, hint, hint, if we do things to clog up the Bitcoin network, then it is very, very possible that we could definitely make sure we get an April 20th halving. Okay. So do what you can to clog up the Bitcoin blockchain. The least amount of Bitcoin transactions, the longer it takes for the blocks to don't be moving under your Bitcoin, folks. Well, you can also have the ordinals and the BRC20 tokens and stuff congesting the network too, which causes a delay in each. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. Thanks for tuning in. I am. Great to see you in the house, my friend. I hope you guys learned something new on today's video, especially about the supply. As Andreas Antonopoulos was mentioning, that there never will actually be 21 million Bitcoin. It will actually be 20 million. Let me see if I can say this correctly. 20,999,999.89s, I believe, is the correct number. So there will never actually be 21 million Bitcoin. Satoshi at this point has 5% of the supply. The United States TradFi institutions have roughly 4% of the supply. Hong Kong just passed the spot Bitcoin and Ether ETF. That's going to change the game. And the crazy thing is about these spot ETFs in the United States is a lot of these mutual funds, retirement, anything to that effect are going to look for performance in these ETFs, regardless of the fact that Bitcoin has existed prior to the ETFs. They're going to want to make sure they're looking at performance before they actually invest. So we actually haven't really seen the majority of these companies in the United States actually getting involved in the spot Bitcoin ETFs at this point yet either. There's a lot of factors going into play. There's nations that are talking about. There is a nation that's accumulating that we don't know about. There are other nations that are probably accumulating. Supply and demand, my friends. Simple economics. The Bitcoin halving is happening. Again, we're looking at 4 days and like 4 to 7 hours, 4 days and 4 to 7 hours and some change. The last Bitcoin halving took place in 2020, and the next Bitcoin halving will take place in 2028. As long as the blocks stay consistent with their block time of an average of 10 minutes per block, we're looking at approximately 4 years, not necessarily from today, but we're looking at 4 years for the next halving, which will reduce the supply even further, reducing the 3.125 in half. So I do hope you found value in today's video. If you have not, smash that like button. I'd be greatly appreciated. If you're watching on the X side, please repost this. If you're watching on YouTube or Rumble, hit that thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, I ask that you make sure you are subscribed. And before we do wrap things up, I want to shout out everybody again who did join me on today's live stream. I greatly appreciate each and every one of you. Daddy-O, I am Polly P. Andy Lee, who had to leave us. Thank you so much. Appreciate each and every one of you. Barbara. The Pothead. Mr. Jim Montgomery. Of course, Mr. Blind Dave. David Gelfand. I appreciate each and every one of you because time is our most valuable asset, and I appreciate you giving me yours for this video. Let me go ahead real quick. Blind Dave says, you wonder what comments will be in the halving block. People can actually store data and information in the blocks. So it is possible somebody will hash some information into there. Daddy O is saying, how much does Max Kaiser have? Great question. I am. Great question, Dave. What if Satoshi made a comment? Something like big blocks rule. I'm not sure if you saw the mentioning of Roger Ver's new book, The Hijacking of Bitcoin. Let me go ahead and get this up on the screen real quick. Oh, I got to get rid of the thumbnail and then get this pulled back up. So much to do with running a live stream. Hijacking Bitcoin, the hidden history of BTC. I just finished reading my copy last night. Great book. I'm telling you, this is a phenomenal book. If you want to understand about the history of Bitcoin from the perspective of Bitcoin Jesus, what happened with the Civil War, the block size debate, and where we are today. Phenomenal read. Going to get Roger on here very soon, and hopefully to be this week, which would be even cooler. So I do appreciate everybody for taking the time to tune in. Again, smash that like button. Make sure you're subscribed. I am says he got it. He read it. It's phenomenal. Yeah, it is a great book. It is a great book. Good seeing you, Henry Bob. Also, shout out to Aaron Day's interview, Roger. I have to check that out. Send me a link, I am. Send it to me on Telegram or text it to me, a link, so I can check it out. I'm going to be reaching out to Roger this evening. I think he's in Singapore, so he's like 13 hours ahead of me. So I'm hoping to do the interview in the next couple days, and then I'll have it available for people on ricetvx.com's private site, Rice Uncensored, available, and then we'll have the thing available publicly. Do appreciate each and every one of you for joining us. It's a beautiful day outside, so make sure you get out there and touch some grass. But before you do that, I always want to leave you with a little bit of inspiration. It's what we need in the world today. Some positivity, love, one love. Be a blessing to others. Treat people how you want to be treated. Be the glitch that you want to see in this matrix. Be the change that you want to see in this world. And until next time, these are confusing times, people. Know thyself. Truly. And I mean that. Know thyself.